Still figuring out life? Good. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I'm Mary Choi Kelly, PhD, mom, leadership coach, and C-suite veteran with 30 years of helping leaders thrive. On this podcast, Fresh Out and Figuring It Out, we give young adults the mic so they can share their stories and everyone listening can understand who they truly are and what's on their minds. We're also showing the real side of young men, one that defies stereotypes, so that we can rewrite the story together and help every young adult, both men and women, grow into confident, compassionate leaders who know their worth and lead with heart. Follow the show. We're figuring it out together, one story at a time. Welcome back, everyone, to Fresh Out and Figuring It Out. I guarantee that you will be very happy that you tuned in today to this episode because we're going to cover a lot of ground with an incredible young adult, Dominic Arviello. Welcome, Dom.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as you know, we begin every episode with a would you rather question because life is all about choices. So I have a question for you. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right. Would you rather go viral for something embarrassing or never go viral at all?
It's a good question. I'd say in my job, I have to go viral sometimes. So I guess doing something embarrassing, you could always turn it for the best.
Okay,
But
good.
that would that would suck. Want to know what I'd go viral for in terms of the embarrassing moment that's clipped, but you know, you could turn a bad situation into a good situation on social media pretty easily. So I'd go with that one.
Awesome. I guess that's what they say, right? In this world, that any press is good press. So
Yeah.
in the world that you live in, it probably makes a lot of sense. So welcome, Dominic. I am really looking forward to this conversation because I know that I'm going to learn a lot from you about this new world of social media and podcasting that I've stepped into. And it has been fun to learn, and it's been challenging as well. So I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to taking away some bits and pieces of knowledge and advice that you might have. I know your mom and dad really well, and I think that our circles, in fact, have been intersecting for quite some time since you were probably a small child.
Mhm.
Both you and my boys grew up in Newport Beach, and recently your family also moved to Las Vegas. So I would love for you to just introduce yourself to the audience in a little more detail.
Sure. My name's Dominic Arviello. I am an entrepreneur. I've been creating businesses since I was 16 years old. I just turned 21. The most recent business I created was Zigzy. It's a social media marketing company. We build tech for people that operate social medias for businesses to help keep track of their engagement and to ideate new strategies in order to further their engagement.
Well, we're going to go into that quite a bit, but let's rewind. You're 21, which is such an amazing age. You graduated high school, what year?
2023. I graduated high school.
Okay,
Yeah.
2023. And I think you did go to college, right, for a little bit?
I did go to college. Yeah, I'm actually wearing my college shirt right now. SMU. I went for 3 months.
Okay.
Yes.
So you decided to go to college. Tell me about your journey from growing up at Newport Beach, high school, and then
Yeah.
your time in college.
Yeah. So, upbringing pretty normal. Did normal kid stuff. Was a normal kid. Only different thing about me was grew up in Newport Beach and did not surf, but that was kind of my whole friend group was surfers and people that were raised near the beach. So that was fun. Had a super fun childhood. Was very involved in theater when I was younger. Acting and performing was my first passion. The first thing I ever discovered. I was innately pretty good at. And
And how old
yeah,
were you when you started doing that?
I was actually thinking about this so I could come prepared. I believe it was 8 years old. or 9 years old, but I did a summer camp at this place called Center Stage Studio in Aliso Viejo. It was like a week program. You audition on Monday, you get casted on Tuesday, you learn the whole show, you perform it on Saturday.
At
It was
8 years
fun.
old?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. eight
Oh
years
my
old and
gosh.
never doing theater before. Yes, I don't think the performance was all too good, but my first ever show was Grease, and I got the lead, Travolta's character. I believe his name is Danny. I think his name is. Um,
Well,
and
you have the
ever since
perfect
then,
hair for that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was probably why I look like a greaser when I was 9 years old too. So, um, but yeah, fell in love with that. I did it competitively. Believe it or not, there is such thing as competitive theater. Wouldn't call it a sport all too much, but we did travel around the country and perform in front of different audiences and got ranked. And sometimes you were invited to New York to kind of enter that world. Had immense goals and going to NYU and actually pursuing Broadway when I was younger, which changed obviously, but was my first passion.
And what did
And
you
then
love about that?
um, there is no like feeling that even comes close to performing, especially when you're confident in your performance. Theater is so interesting. You work every single day tirelessly on very weird things if you're not in theater, like movement, body movement. It's just so much preparation. You become a family with your cast, and you only get to perform for like 2 weekends usually in like amateur theater. So you really only get 4 or 5 shows for 3 months of preparation every single day. So but once you're ready for those shows and you're doing those shows, and it's just muscle memory at that point, and you get the crowd reacting, and you sort of feed off the crowd. It's a great experience. I fell in love with it, and I love performing as well. It's my mom. I probably get it from her because she's an amazing speaker, the best speaker I've ever seen, off the cuff. So I think I get it from her.
To your point, that energy of being in front of an audience and seeing the response, it just feeds off each other. So I wish that's something that I could do. It does sound like a natural high and just something that could be really rewarding.
Yeah, it was the best. No feeling that really comes close to it. It's euphoric almost. You go on there, you sort of black out, and once you're off stage and it's done, you kind of consciousness comes back because there's no room for nerves when you're on stage live. You can't mess up. It isn't television acting.
Nice. So you
Yeah,
did that for a while, and then what?
I would say that I really disengaged from it in eighth grade. Unfortunately, getting into high school, wanted to fit in with the average crowd. Theater kids is kind of its own area in the school normally, and I wanted to go to parties and do everything like everyone else. So sort of thought I had to disengage from theater, and that's what unfortunately happened all throughout high school. Um, and I moved to Vegas in 10th grade. Obviously, COVID hit freshman year. So there was just a lot that happened during high school, kind of took me from theater. That's when I started to really get involved in business for the first time, which is a good thing. Glad that that happened. But yeah, I really haven't been involved in theater as passionately since probably start of ninth grade when it ended.
To your point, I think high school is an interesting time. It is definitely a time where your peer group, it becomes the most important group of influence in your life.
Mhm.
And establishing that can oftentimes be challenging. And I know that in Newport Beach, in that system, there's several different junior high schools that feed into the larger high schools.
Mhm.
And so there is a lot of pressure.
Yeah. No, high school's sucks for everyone. I think it's a pretty, I don't know, continuous statement that I hear people, say. It's like, wow, high school, just remember it being so nerve wracking in terms of like the social aspect of it. Yeah, I think it's just because, you know, especially for me, I was first grade to sixth grade, same people. And then bam, you're in like this environment where it's like quadruple the amount of people, and now you're with people that drive cars and and like are about to go to college and move away. It's just a weird dynamic, and I think it scares anyone.
Well, and I think especially for young men, quite honestly, because it takes longer to develop as a young man. And, there's a lot of things happening with your body, with your hormones, with, acne or, whatever
Yeah,
it is, right? That's just,
yeah,
it is an awkward time.
yeah. But after high school, um, I finished in Las Vegas at a school called Faith Lutheran, which I absolutely loved. Went to SMU for a little bit, and then decided that I was gonna just end my school journey there.
So let's talk about that. So
Yeah,
you made the decision to go to college. I think both your parents must have been very proud of you for not only making that decision, but attending a great school like SMU. So tell me about that decision and your experience in college.
yeah. So college was great, had no complaints in regards to college. Loved SMU, loved the people that I met. It was solely based off of the fact I unfortunately was dealing with an eating disorder at the time, and it sort of flared up during my first couple months of college, forcing me to take a temporary medical leave and go to like a semi hospitalization type of environment in San Diego. And once I was finished with that and I got discharged from there, just to really have any motivation to go back, really wanted to start my journey in music, which I fell in love with while, being treated for my disorder.
So, first of all, Dom, that is a very personal thing to share. And I really appreciate you sharing that with
Of course.
me and with everybody because, it is something that is not, unique to you. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are struggling with those types of disorders. So, do you mind if we go into a little more detail on that? Maybe you could talk about kind of what happened,
Yeah.
how you felt, and your journey.
Yeah. What happened? I could only guess. That was the biggest question that you wonder when dealing with it, is kind of where it all started. What was the initial seed? And eating disorders are really hard to quantify because they involve a lot of stuff: biology, psychology, your environment, sociology. Uh, Very specific factors sort of build up to that issue. So, it was a lot of things: slightly heavy when I was younger, promoted to lose weight when I was younger. And then another thing was, with sort of social media, I don't want to blame it on social media, but feel like a large part of my life, I was not really concerned with myself, more so concerned with the optics of myself, what I was looking like, or what people thought I was. Um, so that, was also a major driver into just really caring about my body and how it looked aesthetically, which then led to me becoming addicted to malnutrition and not feeding it properly. So where it stems, can't really answer that for you. But uh, it was definitely a very hard journey to go through. It lasted, I would say, from sophomore year to around 9 months ago, from when I started Zigsy. It really, that was the nail in the coffin 9 months ago. But it was a tough journey. Ups and downs, not linear, so it was tiring.
Well, any kind of disorder like that is a journey and it's very difficult. And I know
Yeah,
that you are a tall person, right? Like,
sure.
how tall are you today?
5'11".
You're 5'11", and I know that your dad is very tall,
Yeah.
and that when you were younger, you were a bigger child. And my older son kind of had the same pattern. He
Hmm.
was um, he was never on the growth chart. So
Yeah.
he was twice the size of his age that he was supposed to be. I remember when he was 7 years old, I came home and it was in the summer. So he was in a
Yeah.
bathing suit and he was standing in front of a mirror. He was 7 years old, standing in front of a mirror, pushing his stomach down,
Yeah.
pushing it. And I just
Hmm.
walked in and I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm just trying to push my stomach down because all my friends have a really flat stomach
Yeah.
and I don't know why I have a bigger stomach.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what to do as a mom, and
Yeah.
so my first inclination was to just talk to him about, you know, do you want to talk about how you look? Do you want to talk about the food? And so we did talk a lot about food and nutrition,
Yeah.
and it was new territory. First of all, I
Yeah.
had no idea what to do as a parent, and I was so worried about creating, extra focus, right? Like if he's already that focused about it, I
Yeah.
didn't want to draw additional attention. And at the same time, I felt like I'm his mom. I need to do something, right? Like I
Yeah.
can't just let it go. So we have talked about food and nutrition ever since he was 7,
Yeah.
and it continues. Just, it is something in our family that the 4 of us, my husband and my 2 boys,
Yes.
we are very, very involved and interested in food, nutrition, health, longevity, etc. So it has turned into a positive conversation, but
Yeah.
I had no idea which way it was going to go. So I think what I'm trying to say is, when you are a bigger child, I think it is very, very difficult. Mostly for you as a
Yeah.
child, and also for the parents, like not knowing how to address that, because,
Yeah.
part of it is just like, well, he's a kid, so you got to just let him be, you know. And on the other
Yeah.
hand, all of our stuff is coming out, right? Like
Yeah.
we have issues, we've got, perceptions, and, so all of that's coming out too.
It's a hard dilemma for parents because unfortunately two realities exist at the same time. And I've been through the ringer of being and living with people who are, super health conscious, and then through the ringer of the eating disorder world, which is like, don't even think about health, intuitive eating, don't even talk about food, calories don't exist, you know. So I went through these two different worlds, and I was able to kind of observe, the worldview and the way of thinking, and I see the faults in both ways of thinking. And so basically, the two things that can be true at the same time is, yes, sometimes you can become overweight, and adjusting your diet in order to promote weight loss is not a bad thing, objectively, according to physical health. The research is clear. But also the reality does exist where people often, incredibly obsessive in nature. I think that's the biggest like psychological trait or inherent trait that most people with eating disorders have is just inherent obsessiveness. And I see that manifest in all aspects of my life, not just the eating disorder, my work, everything. It's just very unique to me. But, there is a reality where you focusing on health, focusing on calories, macronutrition, working out, being in a deficit, that could lead toward that obsessive nature, which could ultimately end up in an even worse situation comparative to you not really caring about it and being a couple pounds heavier. So it's really hard to balance because there's two realities that you can't really put your head in the sand for either. And it's something that, it's nuanced and take it by situation, but always be aware that these two things could happen.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point. Today, all you hear about is healthy eating and nutrition. And like you said, the diet, the exercise, this focus on longevity, all these things, which there's nothing wrong with that.
It is there's nothing wrong with it inherently. People's urge to better their health. That's innate in human nature. It goes back hundreds of years. I think where it gets a little bit gray is when you get into the numbers, when you get into tracking literally everything on my fitness pal, weighing your food, stressing over it, not being able to go out to a restaurant with your friends and eat a meal and not care about, oh, did I hit my protein goal, or this has an, overwhelming amount of saturated fat. Health is very it's not immediate, right? It's sort of snowballs. You could have a cheeseburger or pizza with your friends on the weekend. It's completely fine. There's no dietitian on earth that is telling you that that would take years off your life. I think that's where it sort of gets gray. So
I,
you 80 80 20 rule, that's always been something that has worked for me. 80% we're healthy, we're living a great life. 20%, okay, also want to live life too.
And that, I think, is the key. You said it right there, right? It is about that balance. And you said it earlier too. It's about that kind of obsessive, compulsive tendency or that behavior, of taking things and then taking it to a point where that's the only thing that you can focus on. So
Yeah.
I think you make some really, really great points. And I, remember, again, personally dealing with my son as when that happened, I was just so taken aback because for whatever reason in my mind, I thought, well, I have boys. Like, I'm not going to have this issue,
Yeah.
And I had an eating disorder when I was young in high school, and mine stemmed all from control. I felt like I didn't have control in my life. And the
Yep.
one thing that I could control was my food. And I actually used my food intake as punishment to my parents because
Hmm.
I had a lot of challenges at home and just the dynamics with, being raised in a different culture with my parents who are very, very traditional. And so
Hmm.
that's kind of how I used it to control. So I was aware that, you know, that it exists and I have some of those tendencies, but because I had a boy, I thought, oh, this won't be a problem. But, it really is something that affects everybody, whether
Yeah.
you're a, boy or a girl. To you, what you said, I didn't grow up with social media, thank God. To have yourself on display literally 24/7 and everything that's out there is just idealized, right? It's just
Hmm.
this glamorized view of everyone's life. I think that alone is so difficult to navigate as a young
It's hard.
person.
It's really hard, and it's an issue that's so unique to this time. We really can't look at history in order to determine how to fix it. There's a lack of wisdom for this issue of being able to show, people across the world at any given time your reality. It's very weird. It makes our world very predicated on the optics of things and not the actual thing itself. But just to touch on what you were talking about earlier in terms of men with eating disorders, it's a common misconception. Um, I went through the ringer. There was not a lot of men within the programs I went through, to be quite honest. Um, but that's not to say that men aren't dealing with this, and it's also not to say that men aren't equally dealing with this. I'll give you an example. There's this huge trend on social media called looks maxing. It's basically a methods that men could do. It's often pointed towards men, actually, mostly pointed towards men. Things that men could do in order to make their jawline sharper. In order, they're selling soles that they can put in the shoes to make men 2 inches taller. Men are struggling with their self-image right now. There's this product on the TikTok shop called mouth tape. It's made around $20 million in the past year. It's selling like hotcakes. I'm in affiliate marketing. I'm in that space. I see all the products that really sell well. That product is basically tape that people put over their mouth when they sleep. And the main unique selling point of that product is that if you do it, your jawline will get sharper. And young men are just buying it up. There's this weird sort of
Oh, I thought
shift.
that was for snoring because I've seen
No,
that.
no, the largest sort of marketing angle that mouth tape took was you sleep with this mouth tape, your jawline will start to get sharper. And I don't know if it's true, but regardless, there is an obvious sort of urge by a lot of men, a lot of young men, to look better. And I'm wondering why. There is a lot of data that says that men are more are less active in terms of pursuing women. They're more scared too. There's a lot of research that points to that, and how social media might be the cause of that. But I would believe there's a lot of men right now under the cover that are feeling a lot of anxiety day to day about their look, and just know that there's other men that deal with those issues, and there's men that have gone through it and gotten out of it, and it is possible.
Absolutely. And I think, Dom, I don't have all the research or data, but I
Yeah.
do know that to your point, that men are suffering and men um, don't necessarily seek help as
No,
quickly, right?
it's not
So,
manly.
yes. So men tend to keep it inside, or try to figure it out on their own, or think that they shouldn't feel that way, or are ashamed or embarrassed or what have you. So the fact that you didn't see as many men getting help reinforces what
Yeah.
we know, that men tend not to really ask for help. And when they finally do, they've been under distress for much longer.
Yes, yes, they're more shell shocked usually. But I know so many people in the eating disorder world, and I get all the data all the time, and there's an increasing number of young men reaching out for help right now, that are just overtly concerned with their image of their body. And for a lot of people that, don't deal with this, it might sound super foreign, and I totally understand that, and I could sympathize with that. But in the mind of someone with an eating disorder, you literally cannot focus on any other task besides doing tasks that relate to bettering the aesthetic of your body. So it really takes away all aspects of life, all motivations, all goals are at a halt until your body is what your mind wants. But the biggest trick of it all is your mind is never satisfied. It always wants to get thinner in that state of mind. So um, yeah, it's a terrible affliction. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I believe there's a lot of people struggling with it right now under the covers.
Yeah. So tell us at your lowest moment,
Mhm.
what was that like?
Um, I don't really remember it, to be honest. So I'm not gonna, get into specifics of weight. I don't want to, trigger anyone. It's a kind of a sensitive issue if you deal with the eating disorder. But I was extraordinarily malnourished. I really was in a tough starvation bout for 3 months, where was eating hardly anything a day, and the last 3 weeks of those 3 months, I was a zombie essentially. I don't really remember it all too much. I don't think my brain had enough ATP to like create more neural networks to store those memories. I think I was just operating on fumes, and then my body started to give out, which I was hospitalized me, which then my parents were able to realize that this was an issue. Um,
And was that while you were at college, and was there a trigger or anything, or was this just a kind of progression?
yeah, it was a progression. So, you know, obviously, like starving yourself is one of the hardest things you can do as a human. I forget the hierarchy of needs. Food is like the first one. It's a
It's a pretty
fundamental
basic
biological.
need,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a pretty basic need. Eat. So in order to usurp that kind of biological urge, you have to get into this like very intense habit, a way of living life, very on the clock. And I was able to fall into a habit like that for about 3 months in Las Vegas, and that's all it takes. It only takes. Well, I wasn't actually as extreme as other people. Other people could, it only takes a month. It is the most deadly disorder on the planet, anorexia nervosa. It's very fast, and it's very undercover as well. So, you know, check in
Yeah,
with,
and
yeah,
especially in this society of, just everyone wanting to look thin. I think in some ways, feedback that you get from other people might be feeding into the disorder, right? Like when you go out or people say, "Oh, wow, you look so thin," or "You look
yeah,
great." And in fact, that's not the case. That no, I'm unhealthy.
yeah. No, that was, the hardest thing for me to really wrap my head around. It was, as I was losing that weight in those 3 months. The first month was great, all praise. I got a six pack. People were, wow, you really changed, so much willpower. Remember people saying to me all the time, you have so much willpower. It's your confidence goes through the roof. You feel like the man, funny enough. But after that, it slowly deteriorates. And yeah, it was just hard to like, oh, were they just don't know. People just don't know, and it's hard. Weight loss is such a success in a lot of instances. It's hard to really stop someone and be like, hey, like, I just want to make sure you're doing this in a healthy way. I want to make sure your mind is approaching this in a healthy way. And I only think people do that if they understand how wrong it could get if that's not the case.
Right. So, you sound very healthy
Mhm.
and in a really, really good place. So, what would you tell other people? What advice would you give to others who may be struggling right now?
Um, Reach out for help. I think that is the main thing. Suffering in silence is way harder than suffering with your friends and family. Reach out for help, and then assess what your wants are. I think that's the biggest thing. I wanted to be successful in some regard. I think that's what my brain was craving, and I was able to feed off the success of me being able to lose weight. So, um, you having that urge to want to be successful, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You could point that towards a good thing. I just think you need to, people just need to stop and assess what they want for a little bit and then try to organize their life in a way to where they can get what they want in a healthy way.
Oh,
And it's
great
my two
advice.
main advice.
Well, and so what about to parents? What would you say to parents?
Uh, for eating disorder specifically, it's
So, for
hard.
example, what would
Yeah,
you say to a parent that is concerned about their son or
yeah.
their child
Um,
and don't know how to approach it?
Never in the heat of an eating disorder as a parent, it's very hard to feel like a hero. A lot of the times people who are disordered, you know, I did this as well. They take everything out on their parents. They're the punching bags in some regard in that process. Just know that that's not your kid. That is that's a problem in your kid's brain that's talking, and you being there to just listen and take the heat and calm them down and help them eat or whatever the issue your kid might be dealing with. It will serve you wonders, and just know when your kid is through that, they will look at you no other than a hero. And that's something that I wish every parent would know. In the moment, it's very hard to get through it, but just know at the end, you are doing everything uh, in terms of helping.
And I think as a parent, the most difficult thing is watching your child suffer
Yeah.
and feeling like there's nothing you can really do.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, what I hear you saying, which is great advice to parents, is in addition, don't give up. Right? You got to keep.
Yeah.
You got to just keep trying, whatever it is. Um, you know, keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's so hard to give advice, because that is, I guess, the most ultimate advice is just don't give up. Um, in terms of, it's not even applicable to just eating disorders, depression, suicidal ideation. There's a lot of disorders out there that are very hard for parents to help their kids with. Not giving up is the most important thing, and being there and,
Yeah.
and keeping your eyes on them.
Yeah,
Uh,
like what you said, that, in every situation, I mean, um, uh, parents do get the brunt of things, right? And the
yeah,
reason why parents get the brunt of it is because your children feel safe with you because they know that they can. And that's a good thing. It's
yeah,
good that they feel that they can and just be their true self and let all their emotions out and let, everything that's going on in their head come out, good, bad, and ugly.
yeah,
Because if it's not coming out, it's, eating them up inside and it's doing
exactly.
damage
Yes,
inside. So, the fact that they can let it out is a really, really positive thing. So I
yes,
would almost say that if they aren't letting it out and you see signs where you're concerned, but they're not getting that out, then I might
yeah,
be even more worried.
yeah. Yeah, and this is it's another thing, like people that parents of kids with eating disorders, the kid with the eating disorder is under a lot of pressure. Their brain is on fire essentially, so they might snap at the parents. Obviously as a parent, it's still, I think, your job to just enforce respect, everything like that. That should be constant. But uh, in those times where it's so obviously not your kid talking, just being there and just having what they say go in one ear and out the other, and
Yeah.
just listen so that you can calm them down. I think that's a big uh, big thing that parents can do.
Yeah, great. What have you
Yeah.
learned from this, Dom?
Um, I learned that I don't want to be known for my body. I want to be known for my mind. That's what I learned. Yeah, the reality in which I am living to be known for my body or my looks is not a reality I live very happy in or very long in as well. So, me wanting to be known for things that I do, that I come up with, things that I talk about, that's more of the goal now.
I love what you said. I think if each and every one of us could take a piece of that, right? Is and you know, people will remember you for how you made them feel, and ultimately the person that you are,
Mm,
and not what you look like or what you wore or any of those things. I think it's very, very mature to come to that place where you can say that, because
yeah,
we are a very superficial, external world. And it
yeah.
continues to go further and further down that path. I mean, if you stay on social media, you think that everybody out there has the most perfect life except for you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, they don't post the arguments on social media. They don't post
Oh,
when
no.
they get a flat tire, all the highlights are on social media. It's a great point. And me working in it and managing social media, I get to see how much of it is optics on a day to day, which really does disengage me from being on it. Obviously, I use it. Not gonna sit here and say that I don't. I have to. In some regard, it's my job. But yeah, it's increasingly making everyone care more about the optics of their life rather than their life
Yeah,
or the feeling.
and living their life.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so appreciative of you sharing your story because it is so personal. And the biggest point that you made that I want to emphasize is there are too many people that are suffering in silence.
Yeah.
And coming out and talking about it is going to help. We have to talk about it to be able to make
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That is the coolest trait that humans have, I think, is being able to discuss and ideate and innovate. It's way easier to get through something with a partner and help. So I absolutely agree. Anti suffering in silence.
Yes, for sure. So you said that as you were getting treated and getting better is when you started to focus on your business. So talk about
Yes.
how those two things came together and what you're doing and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff that I didn't plan happen that has led me to what I'm currently doing today. But after I left SMU, I had to live in San Diego for about 4 months. That partial hospitalization situation. I spent every hour of the day basically in therapy with a couple of pockets for a break. During that break, I learned how to make music. So I downloaded Ableton, started watching YouTube videos on how to create chords, how to write a bass line, how to, write a drum groove. And it was just super fun for me. It gave me something to do during that time where there wasn't a lot going on. After I was discharged, I moved back with my parents in Las Vegas and just finished out the year there. Again, was still pretty disordered at this point. Wasn't 100% healed, so was still struggling with feelings about my body image. So I wasn't really going out, basically inside all day, making music. So I got pretty good at making music, not amazing, but decent. And I applied for a production school in Los Angeles called Icon Collective, and I ended up getting in August, and that's where I went for about 3 months as well until I dropped out of that too. Realized that music was a pretty abrupt decision. Picked it up in the span of 8 months. don't really know too much about it in terms of making money through it. Realized that me being an artist, I had to get into my self image again. So kind of saw the areas where it could get dangerous in that. So I ended up leaving that production school and started an artist management company, which is now the company I run today. But it's not artist management; it's a social media management company because I stopped managing artists and started managing businesses' social medias. More profit.
All right. So
Yeah,
there was quite an evolution.
yeah,
And one of the things, though, that I hear as a real common thread, even from your story from being 8 years old and being in theater, is just your creative spirit, that you
yes,
really have a very creative side to you that
yes,
you have explored.
yes, yeah. I think it's the coolest thing about me. What I'm most confident in is all of the creative things that I've done in my life. I got really into screenwriting, really into making music, really into on camera acting, obviously really into theater when I was younger. I love performing, I love art, and just in general. So I knew stepping into the business world I was going to have somewhat of an advantage in terms of my marketing, because I look at the marketing for most industries, and it's very stale. And I knew that whenever a sort of creative mark entered the business world, they usually come up with something cool and game changing. A big business person I respect, marketer, was, I forget his name, but he was the CEO of Apple at the very start. He created the Pepsi challenge. I don't know, they were in the grocery stores and they had Coke and they had Pepsi, and you had to guess which
That's
one.
my era.
Yes. Much respect, just that's a cool idea. It doesn't take a math problem to figure out that would work. That's just an innate creative idea, obviously. Worked wonders for Pepsi, got them, competing with the big dog of Coca-Cola at the time. So, yeah, I have a lot of respect for the very creative marketers in the world of business.
Yeah, and I think that creativity that you have, and it seems like a need, like you have a need to have creativity in your life, sparks innovation, which sparks kind of your new ventures and business ideas. And so now, where you're applying it is in tech companies, right? Is that
Yes. Yeah.
right? So
So, yeah.
yeah, tell us about your company and what you do.
Yeah, so Zigzy is a content syndicate and a data tracker. So we help you keep track of the engagement that you're getting on social media. And then with that engagement, we have a bunch of data that we've, have prior that relates to solutions in certain data situations. For example, if you have a low engagement rate, that tells us that we might need to assess your content and what you're posting, and maybe have you start applying more of an attention to storytelling. Well, I don't really know how to tell a story. Okay, then we're going to help you kind of create that story to tell, try to create that community, that engagement. Social media is incredibly different than the classical forms of marketing, because of one reason mainly, and that's because, and that the one reason is the control is now in the consumer. Right before, if an ad popped up, in the middle of a football game, kind of had to watch it. Wasn't really an option to skip it. On social media, most ads pop up in feed. If I don't like it, boom, next. No hassle,
Within
just swipe of the
seconds.
thing within seconds. Yeah. So a lot of companies are, they hear, oh wow, 3 billion, 4 billion people on social media. We gotta approach this. We gotta do something in this field. It's a wasted opportunity if we don't. And they're putting, gobs of money in it and not seeing any results, just solely because they're approaching it like marketers would approach creating a TV ad. It's very much different. There's only three reasons why people really watch social media, and you could apply this to yourself. Really think about it. It's to be entertained, it's to be inspired, and it's to be educated. The educated one is decreasing slightly. It's becoming primarily just entertainment. But those are the three reasons. So if you can craft video ideas that fall within those three categories while including that call to action, while including that psychological text took, then you could start creating content that really could affect businesses' ability to convert.
So you've been doing this now for how long?
Uh, I guess social media around 8 months. Had experience posting before then, but really applying attention to detail for
And
about 8 months.
doing it full time. So talk a little bit about what it means to you to be an entrepreneur and a business owner at the age of 21. What does a day
Yeah.
in a life look like for you?
It's pretty boring. I mean, I don't do much. I think at the start, there really is no work life balance. That's what I hear every successful, person that I look up to, my father, my father's friends, my mother. There really is no work life balance at the start. It is only a grind, especially as an entrepreneur. So my days right now are work, 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 and more work. Sunday actually is the only day I get off, and I usually just clean up the house and respond to emails and get stuff prepared for Monday. So right now, not much going on. We have an office in Santa Ana. We have 7 employees now, which has been really fun. Leading a team has been such an amazing experience, so much fun. Being an entrepreneur so young, it feels like a pretty lonely hike, not gonna lie. A lot of people that I know are not going the entrepreneur route. I don't know why. It feels as though everyone is trying to just fall into a place where they can just make money instantly. It's not about creating something. It's studying something and getting a job somewhere and getting that instant security. Or if it's not college related, it's like get fast areas of business like day trading. Uh so yeah, it feels like a lonely hike. Don't know too many other people that are pursuing building a business right now.
Well, entrepreneurship is fairly lonely, right? It is,
Yeah, sure.
you have your idea, you've got a mission, you've got a vision, and you have to have a pretty strong conviction and commitment to put your time and energy into doing it because,
Oh,
we talk about it, it's a cliche, but it's true. It's a risk.
yeah,
You don't know what's going to happen.
yeah,
And it could be a lot of time, energy, and resources that ends up, being profitable or not.
yeah,
So it is quite a risk. So tell me a little bit about, when you think about the path that you were going down, going to college, which is a bit of a traditional path, right? Or at least in the US, I think it's become a path that we've told a story that everyone has to go to college, or if you
yeah,
don't go to college, you're not successful,
yeah,
versus the path of being an entrepreneur. And you come from a family of entrepreneurs. So, talk
yeah.
a little bit about kind of having seen a bit of both, what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Um, and I just want to kind of preface this with both of my parents did not go to college, and they were incredibly successful. So this is where most of my beliefs stem from. But yeah, I didn't really see a clear value proposition from college in terms of the value of the education that they'd offer. I feel as though that's attainable using YouTube and ChatGPT, to be quite honest. The same level of education, actually getting even more in depth just because you have the ability to talk to it or watch it, 24/7 whenever you want. The networking of college definitely is a definitely has value. Although I don't think there's a lot of people in college right now who are really trying to learn something valuable. This could be a completely unfair take. This is so subjective. But to what I can see and to what I experienced, I wanted to go in college. I wanted to start something. As soon as I went into college, I started this thing called Mustang Beats. I don't even know what I wanted to do. Something involving DJs and music. I was sort of getting into it. Before I started making music, I was interested in like the EDM world and managing DJs. Starting that was just so hard because I would go up to DJs and I would go up to people and try to get them involved but no one really wanted to do anything. People just wanted to, kind of go through the motions, get the degree and then start. And I just wanted to start then. So I think that was the biggest difference, you know.
I think, Dom, I went to college, I have a graduate degree. Um, you know, Education, in my opinion, is very important. And I will tell you, that college is not the end all be all. It's not for everybody. To me, the value of the 4 years in college, there's a lot more value that you get from the growing up
Yeah,
and learning about life than necessarily the degree itself.
sure.
Um, there are so many people that graduate with a degree that don't necessarily correlate to a job.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that is an issue that a lot of, young college graduates face because they
yeah,
went into college because they pursued something that interested them, which is absolutely what I believe you should do.
yeah,
Um, and however, at the end of it, there's this disconnect. It's like, wait a second. I got this degree. I thought I was supposed to go to college to, get a job to create a better life for myself. And I can't figure out what job this matches
yeah,
to. So many of your observations are good ones. If you have a clear vision and a direction and a passion to pursue, then go do it.
yeah, yeah. And I think now, it's a little scary for my age just because we're entering a very competitive workforce. There is not a lot of jobs right now. I work in tech, just looking at computer science, which used to be the easiest to get a job after college, is now slowly becoming the hardest degree to get a job with. um, that's another reason why I was sort of sure in my decision. Was I understood the power of AI, understood what it's going to do to business owners in terms of cutting costs and cutting down, how many humans are tied to the business. So I knew if I started competing now, I would probably be in a better situation rather than competing, I guess 4 years from now, or
Yeah.
wow, I would be a junior, so 2 years from now.
Yeah,
But
there
yeah.
it is rapidly changing to your point. The labor market has shifted significantly over the last couple years.
Hmm.
And there is definitely a lot of change now and more to your point in the future on what organizations and jobs and skills are going to look like. So
Yeah. And
uh,
unfortunately, got to call out my demographic here too. There's a lot of research that says that Gen Z is probably the worst working class ever seen in American economics. They have, I believe, over a 50% firing rate. It means getting hired in the first, I think, 3 months they get fired. And I think this is a very recent problem, but I have a hypothesis. There's a lot of people that are sort of coasting through college doing their work on ChatGPT, not actually doing their work. And that's something that college can clearly teach you about life. Is if you are not able to provide value, no business owner will keep you on staff. No business owner will keep you on staff. They might hire you, sure, but they will cut you off that line as soon as they realize the value that you don't offer. And I think that is a big problem that a lot of people, especially my age, might face when they sort of enter the workforce. Is you can't chat GPT your way through making money and making a sustainable income. That will always require hard work. Um, and and a lot of
yeah,
the people that I interface with are not really working that hard.
that the whole thing about AI and ChatGPT, you're absolutely right. There is more and more technology now where it will now show you where ChatGPT was used
Yeah,
and where it was your original thought. It is there's a lot of research that's emerging already about the fact that it's just making us dumber and dumber because nobody is thinking.
it's going to
Um,
make us regurgitators and not so. But like AI, all of its output is based on previous input. It can only produce what it knows, so it inherently cannot innovate. It can only regurgitate. So right now, with the way that people are learning, it's just creating a bunch of people that regurgitate stuff. No one's coming up with anything right now. And that's the biggest, advantage I have as an entrepreneur. It's like, yeah, I building a tech business. I'm actually incorporating a large language model within my tech project. You can call that AI, but the system of my tech project it wasn't ideated with ChatGPT. That was from me. I had to identify a hole in the market, a pain point, and try to solve that pain point through tech. It's very hard to do that using a brain that can only give you ideas that have already been created.
Yeah, it's the ultimate consolidator of information. I think the upside for people that are in the workforce is the people that are thinking and critically thinking and adding value. It is very easy today to be
Yeah,
differentiated.
it is.
So there's always kind of that two sides to the coin. This path of, going down the business route, number one, I feel like it's a little bit in your blood with the way that you were raised, with your role models in your life, incredible parents that you have, incredible businesses that they've built, and the thread of creativity that really drives you. And then I think you said it earlier, is that taking some of the psychological patterns that you wrestled with and applying it in a positive way, right? Kind
Yes.
of that obsessive nature that you might have to solve a problem, to get the solution, to figure out the next best thing, or, to, get something done, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the coolest thing I got to learn about, you know, well, I wouldn't say cool, but about disorders actually. They usually stem from like fundamental things that are related to your brain, and usually the downside of those fundamentals usually also has an upside. And so, being able to acknowledge that I'm very good at dedicating large amounts of time towards one specific goal, that is a trait that I've been able to respect about myself and apply it to things that really, really offer a lot of value to the world, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a huge benefit, like you said, to
Yeah.
learn that about yourself. I think that right now in your era of life, right, in the age range that you're in, the most important thing that's going to serve you best in life is really understanding yourself,
Yeah.
understanding how you make decisions, understanding what motivates you and drives you, understanding, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like, what you don't like. I mean, that exploration is probably the most important thing that you can gain during
Yeah.
this period in your life.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. People being aware of, where they lack is also a really great tool if you also know how to self teach. That's something that I also think college doesn't do a great job about teaching you how to teach yourself. It's called autodidactism. It's a lost art. Leonardo da Vinci was considered the best autodidact to have ever existed. Not only was he a painter, he was also a scientist, a chemist. He did pretty much everything. But really, he was just able to teach himself things. And if you're able to observe where you lack, then you can seek out information to improve in those areas. So as long as you have the ability to teach yourself.
Yeah, just that sense of curiosity
Yeah.
and really kind of wanting to know, for the sake of knowing.
Yeah.
I love it. So what advice would you give others who might be interested in starting a business, being an entrepreneur? What would you say?
Um, Anything you can do with $1,000, you can do with $10. It's just a little bit harder. That's, I guess, the biggest piece of advice that I've learned through this
Oh, I
journey.
love that. So
Yeah.
what you're saying is it's not about the money, meaning,
No,
that shouldn't be a barrier for
it's
you
not.
to do something or try it.
It's the biggest trick of them all, and it's obviously not my position to say. Probably don't demand enough respect by saying it, because I do come from a very fortunate situation, but just it's very clear. It's not money. It really is, your will and your competence. Uh, that is where, once strengthened, you will really find your area in business. But yeah, that's the biggest advice I could give to anyone, just off of what I've done. When I was starting, you wanted to pour $1,000 in ads. Well, why? Why pour $1,000 in ads? Let's put $10 in it. Okay, sure, we'll get 1/100th of the data. But if you times that data that you get by 100, then that could be replicative of that could be indicative of like what $1,000 would be. So being very lean in your approach to starting something, trying to bootstrap as much as possible. That's the skills that I work for when hiring now.
Oh, actually, I really think, Dom, that's really great advice. Of course, everyone has their own circumstances and everyone has to consider the fundamentals of what you need to survive, etc. However, no matter what you're trying to achieve, you don't have to do the Cadillac version. You can start
Yes, yes,
with,
exactly.
right? You can start with what you have and then learn and grow from there. And,
Yeah,
just start. Some of the best advice that I've heard from lots of people, right, is just start.
yeah,
Just
just start.
just do it.
and
Just try
and
it.
just know as well that ideas come out half baked. Ideas never come out fully baked. Very rare. So, the idea that I pursued that motivated me enough to start an LLC, to start this business, that is not the idea that I made money on. Which is weird. It's actually so far from it. I learned very quickly how unrealistic my idea was. But the idea should serve as the catalyst to getting you to start. But just know that as you start and you experience the world, your ideas will fully bake, and what you end up actually doing could could be very much different from what you thought you'd be doing when you
Yeah.
first had the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. The real application of test and learn, right? Test it
Yes.
out, learn, tweak, and test it out again and continue.
Yeah.
Great. What lessons have you learned?
Mm, I've learned that failing quick is a strength.
I say it all the
That's
time, Dom. Fail fast and often.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's something, I'd put so much attention trying to be perfect. But then you just accept the fact, oh, I'm not perfect. And I'm not going to map out every edge case of every single move I make in this business. And I'm going to do something that ends me up in a pile of crap. It's inevitable. It's just having the ability to pick yourself up out of that pile of crap, wipe it off, and pivot. Or on to the next thing. All right, that didn't work. And failure it offers you so much data. Once you really swallow your pride and understand that you failed, you were wrong, then you're able to analyze why you were wrong and then change yourself so you're not wrong in that area again.
Well, and it's so wise. That is so wise for you to say that. I mean, honestly, I spend a lot of time coaching leaders and telling people that have been in business for, 10, 15, 20 years, exactly that same message. Where
Yeah,
you learn and grow the most is when you make mistakes.
yeah,
That is the time that you learn. So we have to pay attention to that.
yeah,
And,
really, yeah,
and it is a very valuable lesson if you can truly learn. Some people
yes,
make mistakes and maybe they're not taking away the lessons from it, but if you can learn
yeah,
from it, that's where you're going to grow.
100%.
Anything else? Any other lessons? Any more nuggets of wisdom that you
I
can
have
provide?
to. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to provide too much wisdom. I am only 21. I could be wrong. So we'll just leave it at that. I'm pretty sure in those things that I said. So, uh,
Okay, good.
yeah,
So, Dom, I've got a couple questions that I'm asking every guest. So, the
yeah.
first one is, what's one stereotype that you've heard about young adults your age that you would like to dispel?
Mm. Mhm. That's a really good question. What is one stereotype about my age demographic that I'd like to dispel? I think that we don't want anything. I think that's yeah, yeah. We're not craving to be successful. We're not craving to better ourselves. We're kind of just coasting, observing. Um, I think it's largely true, but I don't think that we are unable to turn away from that very fast. I know I did, given my specific circumstance, but I think everyone uh, has that ability to stop being an observer of their life and start actually being the director of it.
Great.
Yeah.
What are the three most important things you look for when you consider a job, a company, or a career?
I look for passion, purpose. That's try to tie it within myself. Obviously, I'm not going to pick something that I just know I inherently will never be amazing at. Um, and don't take that to where you know what you wouldn't be amazing at. A lot of people think they wouldn't be amazing at a lot of things they actually could be amazing in. So definitely don't be dismissive. But obviously, there's some things that I know that I most likely would not be amazing at. Um, I think another thing when approaching a job is the community and the people you get to work with and how you interact with them. I'm a big supporter of going into work, very anti-remote. Um, and that's something that I definitely look for is what team am I going to be able to play on? It's the coolest part about entering the business world is you're not doing this alone. You have a team. You're going to develop a sort of business family, and you're going to be able to accomplish goals together. Yeah, let's say those things.
Great. All right. What do you think it means to be a man?
Jordan Peterson said it best. Yes, the true mark of a man is the ability to be competent, nothing else. So
Okay.
so doing what you say you're going to do,
Love
showing
it.
up and executing, and raising your children as well. That's
Good.
that's what
Great.
a man is as well.
Great. What do you think it means to be masculine?
I think masculinity plays a lot into the ability to push off the opinions of others. That's what I really respect in terms of masculinity or being masculine in thought. Um, Confidence. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. Confidence. There's going to be a lot of people that talk crap on you. It's just so true, and you can't avoid it. But being able to just brush it off, it's just white noise, and stay in your ball game and accomplish your goals. I think that's pretty masculine.
Great. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as weird. I think,
What do you mean by
unfortunately, yeah.
that?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty weird to the average person. I'm very philosophical. Like this is not an act. I genuinely talk like this, and I think the way that I do, largely due to the experiences I've been through. But uh, yeah, I think I'm weird, but weird is not bad. Weird is good, and the coolest people in Legacy are usually considered weird when they were growing up. So hopefully it turns into a good thing. But yeah, I do think that I don't know. I just think about a lot of weird stuff, like philosophy. I'm very intrigued in data and just random stuff.
Great. So, what does supporting young men look like, in your opinion?
Supporting young men is actually probably not supporting them at all and letting them try to fly on their own. I won't. I will say this. Um, a lot of parents right now feel a little bit too helicopter to me. Life 360 is a great point, but it's as a man, you have to figure it out. If your mom or your dad is figuring it out, it doesn't you don't get that 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 kind of rush of serotonin, that sort of feeling that you are evolving, that you're rising in the hierarchy of thought. Um, you know, Being able to struggle and figure it out and hitting a rock bottom and bouncing back from it, that is it's the coolest thing that I see that men can really do is that ability. So yeah, best way to support young men, um, letting them fail as well. Letting them fail and not being harsh on them when they do fail. Really pointing towards look at that failure, examine it, learn from it. Checking in with them in terms about their mental health. I think that's where you can support them. Like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of men who are just uncomfortable, or will never come out about the mental health uh, aspects of their life. So kind of forcing them to start talking about it and forcing them to maybe tell you things that they're struggling with, I think that's helpful.
Great. Last question. What would you like to see changed about the story about men?
Change. I would like, this is not just about men. I would like everyone to take a step back and settle down. I think that right now it's very tense, regardless of everything, just having two opposing thoughts right now. And the reality of that seems like a whole war zone. And I think if everyone took a step back and took a breath and realized that we're all just, bags of meat trying to figure it out on a floating rock in space, I think we'd all start treating our neighbors better. And I think that's the most important thing that we could do.
That is so perfect. So thank you so much again, Dom. This conversation was everything I thought it was going to be and more. It is so
Thank you.
great to talk to you, and appreciate you taking the time to share your story and being so open, honest, and vulnerable with everyone. And I will see you soon.
All right. See you soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode, and now it's your turn. Take what you heard today and put it into action. Share this episode with a friend who's figuring life out too. And let's build a generation of leaders who lead with heart. Follow the show, leave a review, and connect with me on social so we can keep figuring it out together. See you next time.